Hello, and welcome to Makers.dev, episode number 13. My Chris, what a beautiful microphone you have.
You too, Christian.
Thanks, dude. I don't know if we did this on purpose, but we're wearing like a very similar cut and style of shirt right now. I feel like our appearances are converging. We got like the same sort of facial hair. We got the over-ear earphones. We have exactly the same microphone. This is, I think this is what happens when you start spending more time with a person.
Or it's just the coolest way to film a podcast.
Or it's just the cool. We're converging on the coolest
right.
way you could possibly film a podcast. Speaking of which, we got some great feedback on Twitter of people digging it. That feels so good. I think I mentioned this in one of the earlier episodes. But how cool is it that like these are chats that are benefiting each of us individually, intrinsically, and putting a little bit more effort into it. And I'm getting kind of caught in the weeds of like playing with the tools of making this thing, but putting that aside, with marginal effort, we're able to have these conversations in a way that other people can enjoy too. That's so cool. I think in a previous episode you said it's like injecting your voice into someone's ears.
Yeah.
So the way you phrased it was gross. I think I included it in the title. That concept that, yeah, I can inject my voice into someone's ears. It's so cool, and I continue to enjoy this process. Thank you yet again for continuing to do this with me and being the impetus to start this. It was a great idea.
Yeah, it's really neat. We could just talk, and then stuff pops up on Twitter or stuff in Slack groups or whatever, and it's a way to keep up with people, and it's something that I'm glad we did.
I love it. One thing that I'm getting a little in the weeds in that I'm currently frustrated by is we've upgraded the microphone. I did this experiment last week of like, do we record the audio in high fidelity on our own computers and then mix that together and not just use the high quality recording on Riverside. And I'm slowly decreasing the space that these problems that I'm noticing in the audio could be manifesting, and I think it might be a problem in FFmpeg. So hopefully I figure it out in editing this episode. I don't know how deep in the weeds I'll need to go, but spending $800 on a microphone was not the most effective way to solve this. But I'm glad that now I can just sort of write that off as if there's ever a problem in audio, it is not my hardware because I have the same microphone that Joe Rogan has. And so I'm... that's going to be a podcasting job for me next week of trying to figure out how does Final Cut make such good audio with the same input files, and why is FFmpeg not doing the same thing? There's like technically nothing that Final Cut should be able to do that FFmpeg can't. So I know there's a way to do it. I'm curious. I think it's specifically in the stage of mixing the two audio channels together. And oh my gosh, Chris just left. He's gone. We just had some technical difficulties. I will edit that gap out later, and I might edit this out too, but I might just keep it in. Who knows? FFmpeg mixing together audio channels is tricky. I don't know. Specifically what I'm noticing is in moments when I'm louder, it clips off the loudest part of my voice, and it does the same thing with yours. And I don't know if that's like, do we have subtly different volumes, and then mixing those together makes it so that that range has to be compressed when it's in AAC, and then the top end of whoever the louder person is, which is usually me, because I think I just have my gain turned up higher than yours, it gets clipped off. And is the way that Final Cut fixes that, they like shift it so that it's within the same range. It's an outstanding question, and another application of like this. It's this domain that I know nothing about that. I have some tools to be able to figure it out, but it's just fun, like learning about audio and how that works.
Yeah. It may be there's lots of different ways to handle audio, and so it may be a case where some API does it better than FFmpeg or something, and we have to use that. We'll see.
It's really complicated. The process of, and also very simple. Sound is just like a vibrating membrane, and so is a microphone, and you just convert those vibrations to a digital signal. And that's how we get audio. Amazing. Sight is so much more complicated than that, of trying to make an artificial thing that you can see. You got to have like red, green, and blue LEDs, and you got to light them up, and they got to be very small, and you got to light them up in just the right way so that they mix to colors. And then smell. Oh my gosh, we haven't figured out smell yet. But sound is so simple. Sound is just a vibrating. You stick a wire onto a drum, and you're done. It's cool. Chris, what did you get up to this last week? What sorts of things were you working on? We're a few weeks in a row, very like meditative space of thinking about the main business. And I saw on Twitter you've been pumping out these videos that I love. It's these talking head style videos of doing like these little tutorials and things. I love it. What's going on behind that?
Yeah, so now that I have a fancy camera with fancy lights in my office all set up and my brand new microphone, I started doing some more of those talking head videos. I was kind of in preparation for an Egghead course, which I'm working on. So that is what I started working on, and I'm going to keep working on. I sort of committed to doing this in December, and so it's coming up when I should have it done. So I'm working on that, and yeah, I really like doing the talking head little videos. I don't exactly know where they're going. Maybe I put them on YouTube. Maybe I keep them on Twitter. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, that's been really interesting. What else? I did a lot of little things last week. And I was kind of bummed because it's like I didn't accomplish anything, but then I actually wrote down everything I did, and it was actually like a lot of stuff. It was just like lots of little things. One of the things I did was like I cleaned up a lot of old stuff. So I had domains expiring. So I just let them expire. I like got rid of all the email addresses. I got rid of all my stuff. Side note, I can go on a rant about Facebook if you want me to.
Oh, let's hear it.
So Facebook ads. So Facebook itself is like highly polished, and you can tell it's A/B tested and designed. Facebook ads, which runs their whole business, is like a complete mess. There's like at least 5 different subsystems that I had to interact with. I had 4 or 5 different like side projects, which I had Facebook pages for that I didn't do anything for. Every one was like, I'm going to set up this page and finally figure out Facebook ads, and I never did. And so I have all these. It used to be you had to make a business, but now you don't. And so I had an old like business account also. Anyway, I tried to delete all that stuff. It took 4 or 5 hours to figure out how to delete all this stuff. And then my account was locked, I think because I had an old 5-cent charge that I couldn't pay because they don't let you pay unless you have $2 or something. It was a whole thing. Anyway, I finally got that cleaned up. To their credit, like I emailed support, or not emailed, I filled out a form, which that form was one of the 5 layers, and it was like an archaeological dig of Facebook designs. It was the very oldest, like square, blue rectangles, like that really old design. Anyway, within about 48 hours, they had my account back up and running so I could actually delete the other stuff. So I did that. Yeah, what else did I do? Yeah, that's about what I did last week.
You were talking about the not being sure of publishing videos to Twitter or YouTube, and eventually that's going to turn into a course, but not sure what to do with it. I think in one of the videos you said as a design challenge, you were trying to fit it within the 2-minute, 20-second video time limit of Twitter. I love that. I'm also thinking about that for clips and practicing syndicating clips, that 2 minutes and 20 seconds is a really good amount of time to work with. It's sort of arbitrary. Like, why not pick a minute? Well, okay, you could pick a minute too. That's fine. YouTube Shorts are a minute, and I think Instagram videos are also a minute. But having that constraint, it's like the creativity problem of make up a joke, and you're like, oh my god, make up a joke. I don't know how to do that. But if I say, make up a haiku about refrigerators, it's so much easier to just spit those out with some sort of constraint. That if you limit your creativity on some dimension, it frees you to be less existential and more creative in different dimensions. I would love to see a Twitter series of, I'm going to teach you this technology or this concept in a bunch of Twitter style videos. I love that. Also, so interesting. I've had almost the exact same experience with Facebook of this part of their app that is their moneymaker. For me, it's in a podcast I have interviewing alumni from my university. I have been practicing queuing up clips so that I make a bunch of clips in bulk, and then I try to publish one per day. Oh my gosh, that is just the worst experience I've ever had. You would think that, okay, Facebook is this machine generated by content. I am a content producer with a group and a page who's I'm trying to publish more content regularly, and it's just so unbearably difficult. And it's React. So I'm like, how did you get in this mess in React? But there's things like, there's a text box for the text that goes in the post. And I have also uploaded a video in that post. And so there's like the edit section on the left, and then there's the preview section on the right. And every single character keystroke that I type on the left refreshes the entire content box on the right, including the video. So every keystroke I type, the whole thing goes away and then comes back like a second later because it has to reload the video and all the other elements of it. Like, how long would that take to fix, and why haven't you fixed that? What do you think that is? What's behind that? I've found the same thing with like Google Ads. The source of revenue coming into this multi-billion-dollar company is just terrible, and it's hard and convoluted. Why is that? They're capable of making very good software.
With Facebook specifically, so one reason I went back in also is because they're making a new thing. So business.facebook.com is now going to be the thing, I think. And you can use a personal account to put ads for like a page. So it's like how it should have worked like the whole time. But as I went through like the different things, one of the things I could definitely see was like the division between teams. Because it's like, it's very clear, like this was a completely different team that designed this with a completely different designer and a completely different thing. And there's like, there were like 3 different ways that I had to delete my page. There was like a business asset and a page and a something. And it was very clear. It was 3 different teams that designed it and 3 different design styles. And also they have eventual consistency everywhere. And so like I'd delete something and then like 10 minutes later, it would not show up on the thing. Like, so it's just an extremely, extremely complex system with multiple teams, and I think that's probably like what's showing there. So that's all I got for that. Yeah,
I see that argument that it's complicated and there are multiple teams, but I think I could say the same thing about their front-facing app. And it would be way more. That you have more attention and more teams for the exact corner radius of what a text box looks like or something. So how could it be that the consumer facing end of Facebook is so slick and so polished, and this beacon and icon of user experience, and a platform that's intentionally addictive, and they can't spare any of that energy for the side? Like, I think the question I'm trying to ask is like, how does it not make business sense to be iterating in the same way on the side of your business that's making money as it is the side of the business that's just trying to suck in attention?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is, so like it took me that long, but I spent all that time, right? So like maybe I don't like them now because I spent all that time, but like I did it anyway. So like I think that just the drive to do stuff on the business side is so strong that people are going to figure it out anyway.
That makes sense. Okay. You have much higher motivation to get your thing done, so you'll tolerate much worse UX. Whereas if it's a consumer and a page takes more than whatever, I think it's 50 milliseconds
they'll just bounce.
What people, they'll bounce and they'll go to Twitter or something else. So okay, that makes sense. I was thinking also, I noticed this paralysis in myself of working on DB Inbox back when I didn't understand why it was making money. The idea that I had at the time was, I don't understand this machine. It's spitting out money. I don't want to touch it because I could break it and then I could stop making money. That I'm curious if there's a similar mentality in Facebook of like, this is the part of the business that's generating all this money, and in Google and Google Ads, like something we're doing here is working. People are buying these ads. So don't touch this. And if you do touch it, you better have a very good reason to touch it. So if you come in like, I think this button should be themed like the rest of our app, people are like, no, right. Don't touch it. It's working. Focus on something else. And people are still using that, and they still have the motivation to go through it.
Yeah, like they're doing this whole...
It's an interesting... Yeah,
they're doing this whole redesign, and if they get that wrong by just a few percent, like that's $1 billion, So it's crazy. Yeah.
That makes sense.
But if they get it right, that's a few more $1 billion in the other direction. So,
yeah. I have this process of like A/B testing and things. I'm just curious about it. I'm thinking now too about, there are parts of File Inbox that I've neglected. That like my own internal dashboard for managing things, it's just the most slapdash. Like, it's bad. And I haven't improved it because I can tolerate it, and I'm the only person that sees that dashboard. And if I put a little bit more work into that, it could be so much better and could do things like live update, and things that take 4 clicks to do would only take a click. And I haven't done that, I guess because it doesn't matter, because it only matters to me. Like it would only be an aesthetic thing for me.
Yeah,
Hmm.
that's the cobbler's kids have no shoes, right? That's my
Yeah,
admin
that's
dashboards. There's no styling. It's just like plain text. Yeah, same thing. Yeah.
just the default Rails scaffold templates of like good.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Fantastic. Facebook ads and Google ads. I would love to ask you a question about what I'm calling Clips.marketing because I don't know what to do with it. I'm building it for myself, and I'm okay not having I know what the next month or two is going to look like because there's a set of features that I want to build into it. But I'm not sure what I'm aiming at yet. So Clips.marketing is what I'm calling this machine that takes a single long form piece of content, like a finished YouTube video of one of our episodes, and makes it trivially easy for me to add chapter bookmarks and to clip out sections of the video. And I haven't done it as much on this podcast. I'm doing it more for the alumni podcast I mentioned earlier. But it lets me, for an hour-long piece of content, I can go through and bookmark and make about 5 clips from the episode in, if it's an hour-long episode, about 40 minutes. And then there's some things I need to do manually, but the goal that I'm aiming towards is in those 40 minutes, I rewatch the entire episode at 2 or 3 times speed. I'm adding the bookmarking and I'm adding the clips while I'm going. And then I hit done. And then those get syndicated out with one video clip getting published per day on every single social media feed that I have. And it's in that Gary Vee style with the title on top and the video in the middle and the transcription on the bottom. It's great. And it solves this huge problem that I had in the alumni podcast that I made of no one listens to podcasts. But everyone is on social media feeds. And how easy is it to watch a nice, snazzy titled 2-minute video that's like, Chris tears apart the backend of Facebook. And then it's subtitled and you don't need sound on, so you can still watch it. And then if you want to, you can hop in there. That is so much easier than subscribe to my podcast and listen to this hour-long,
Right.
much lower signal-to-noise ratio, me just chatting for these little nuggets of things that would be useful. So it makes so much sense to me, and that's Gary Vee's strategy, and that's a lot of successful YouTubers are doing this, and Joe Rogan does this also with JRE Clips, although he stopped that with the move to Spotify. What would you be aiming at for this to do? I don't know what to... I don't have a plan of what to do
Right.
after I've made this thing for myself that I can use to syndicate and make clips of my own things. Do I make this a SaaS? Do I start my own media company where I charge someone $3,000 a month to do a Brian Castle style productized what was it? Audience ops, like an audience ops, but for long form content. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so it's for sure a problem that other people have too. As evidence, I will try to find this live. Let's see. So, do you listen to the Run With It podcast? It's in the Indie Hackers sort of podcast.
The Run With It
thing.
podcast.
So on Run With
I
It,
don't.
they bring on people and they people who are already running their companies and they have some other idea and they don't have time to do this idea, so they explain the whole thing and then hopefully someone runs with it. Right? That's the idea.
Cool. Yeah.
One of the recent ones was someone who talked about clipping content for YouTube. Yeah.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
I should listen to this episode.
Oh man, and I can't find it now, but I will later. So she had the exact same problem. Especially her target was inspirational speakers and that kind of thing who have they do these workshops. They have a 50-minute video afterwards, and they just do not have time to clip it. They should clip it and put it on Facebook and YouTube and all this stuff, but they just don't have time. But if they did, they would get a lot more leads, right? And so her suggestion was something more like the Brian Castle thing than a SaaS. So it was something like you develop a process where you get in these 50-minute clips, you clip them into 10 things, and you deliver the 10 clips to them. She even said don't even worry about posting it to YouTube and Facebook and stuff because these people generally have a process for that already. So target people with a big audience, but who don't have time. So they have to have a big enough audience that it's their full-time gig, but not a big enough audience that they already have an assistant to do this kind of stuff already. So yeah, target that market. So anyway, that was her whole idea, which I think is pretty good. You could go a couple other directions, but yeah.
Cool. Man, what a perfect reference to pull. That was amazing. Oh, Christian, you have a problem? Here's an entire podcast episode about exactly how to solve that problem. Neat. Okay, and that's reassuring that I don't need the buffer style features of queuing it yet, because that's there's so many different solutions for that and different ways to do it. I think I want that for myself, but this is a valuable product. Without that,
as long as you deliver, you say, here's 10 videos for YouTube, here's the same videos but cut for Instagram, here's the same videos but with pull quotes for Twitter, so it can be the same videos, just slightly different formats and resolutions and stuff for each of the different social networks.
I like that. Yeah. And there's part of my pipeline is I can do that sort of clips in parallel of if it's for YouTube, you don't need the banner on the top or bottom because everyone on YouTube has the volume turned on and browses it in a different way. So I can do that, and I can do a square one with that top and bottom, and I can do and then I could just like sync it to Dropbox or something, or if it's more like a one-on-one. Okay. Interesting. This is another. A few times I've done this of like building a thing without doing audience first. For everyone listening, build your audience first. That's the way to do it.
We do it the wrong way. All the wrong way. That's us.
Yes. No.
Which I had a realization about that. Like so I was thinking this about async.dev. So one of the things I'm going to do with that, I got on some like list where now bots sign up every day for it, which is sort of lame. And I can tell they're bots because the email addresses don't make any sense, and they log in and don't do anything. Anyway,
gross.
I'm going to turn off self sign up and just like have an email sign up. But one of the things I realized with that is that's what we said, like, I'm going to do everything wrong and see what happens. And one of the things I realized is that is how I do market research. So I know that I can build really quickly, but instead of getting in front of people and just talking to them, I have a hard time doing that before I have anything. So I'll spend a week or two building, then get in front of people. And I learned a whole bunch. Like I talked to lots of people because I built the thing, mostly like I built the thing in public, right? And people came and talked to me about it. And so I learned a whole lot. And that's kind of just how I learn. I think that's sort of how you do it too, right? You build the thing, then you talk to people, and then you do it. And I think that works as long as you're really quick in iterating. But yeah, so that was an interesting realization about that's just how I operate, and I think that's okay as long as I recognize that that's what I'm doing.
I love that idea. Oh, that's I totally agree. And that's I was going through the 30 by 500 course by Amy Hoy and Alex Hillman, and they are teaching the correct way to do it, which is you start with the audience, you start with market research, you start by doing things that aren't very expensive. Like their example is they call it an e-bomb. It's sort of like a piece of content marketing, like a blog post or like a short video or an article or a tutorial or like a PDF or something. And I think it's easier for me to make an app than it is to write a blog post.
Right.
And I would like it to be easier for me to write a blog post. But and I think you're the same way. Of like you have this incredible skill set of it's very cheap for you to make software, which for most people is the hardest part. For oh my gosh, it was heartbreaking. I was talking to someone who in Dallas that we met through a local group here, and he was showing me his app that he made for photographers, and he was so excited about it. And he was showing me, and I was looking at it like, oh man, this is a piece of garbage. Like, this guy's not technical, but I don't know, did he like hire a student to do this or something? And it had to do with, he's a journalist, so he takes photographs for newspapers, and it had something to do with like taking photos from your camera wirelessly and then putting them in the place that they need to go. And the system for that right now is horrible. And so he had identified a very real problem that was very good, but like the app was awful. And I started talking with him about it to try to get a sense of the numbers and like what was his pricing. And he was like, oh, I'm thinking of charging like $5 a month for it. And I was like, charge more. That's the classic mistake that you make. And I was like, how did you build this? Like, what's your process for this? Did you hire like a student or what's going on? And he said, oh, that's been a really tough part. I raised a bunch of money from friends and family, and I've actually I'm on my third consultancy development team for doing this, and so far I've spent about $80,000. And I was like, what? Oh my God, you spent $80,000 for this? How did that happen? Oh, I'm so sorry. How, on behalf of my community of software developers, we've done you a great disservice. It's just tragic. He had a very good idea and he's identified a very good problem, but he just doesn't know how software works. And so yes, it cost $80,000 to get to the point that I could have gotten to in like, I don't know, an hour. even if it was in this mobile app space that I don't fully understand, an hour's hyperbolic.
Yeah,
In
I
like
get
a
it.
day, I could have gotten to this point. So like that's not the problem that we have, because if you had built this thing that for this guy would have cost $80,000, and then you bring it out to the market and you find out like, oh, actually, all of this is trash, and I'm going to scrap all of it and do something in WebRTC instead and totally re-architect it, you would lose, I don't know, a few weeks at maximum, depending on the scale of it, like maybe a couple of hours of development work to totally transition like something foundational, just because that's the medium that you're working in. For you, that is as easy as editing a blog post. But for this guy, it would just knock him out. And I didn't know what to say to this guy of like, look, like, I know you're $80,000 into this, but you're in trouble, dude. I don't know how much money you have. But the $80,000 for most people I know that would knock you right out. And yeah, for you, it's not nearly that expensive. That is a form of iterating. That is a form of doing market research. I think that's perfectly valid, and I love that way of framing it.
Yeah, and not only is it not expensive, like I learned a whole ton of stuff, and so like in 2 weeks I built the whole thing, and now I have like a whole subsystem of comments and threads and stuff, which I'm already planning about how I'm going to drop that into Meeting Place, and so, yeah, so it was a learning experience, and I got to talk to a whole bunch of people about it. So, yeah, it's just as long as you understand that's what you're doing. Yeah,
I'm getting much more comfortable with that, and I would like to be stretching myself more in the direction of doing things the right way and talking more to people. A practice that I've started recently that's been very helpful is manual onboarding. For all of the things that I've made like in the last year, I think my previous technique would have just been like I build it and I post a link about it on my blog, and maybe I post about it on Reddit and then I forget about it. And instead of doing that, what I've been doing is I'll post about it like on Twitter. And I'm starting to cultivate more of an active audience on Twitter and try to get a sense of like who is the person who has this problem. And if people say that they're interested, I'll say, hey, I'd love to onboard you to this. It's in beta. It's not great, but I think it can solve some of the problems you have. Let's schedule a call, and I would love to get you set up. And then on that call, I watch them sign up for it, and I watch them try to use it. And it is the hardest thing in the world to just sit back and, like, when they're trying to do something, and I know the way that I think it should work, and I'm like, oh, it's this button, just push this button. Oh, it's so clear. Watching them struggle with that in a very mom test style process is so nice. And the product improves so much faster that way. And I'll get off each call, I average like 5 major things that I need to change, and then I try to fix those before the next one. And so that sort of process feels like moving in the direction of I'm still sitting in this base of I'm making software products first, but I'm moving more in the direction of trying to get more audience feedback and trying to iterate faster, not just fall into this trap of I made this perfect thing in my code cave and now I'm going to launch it and I have built it so they will come.
Right.
I'm trying to get more feedback at that stage, and I think that's the way to improve that process.
Yeah, and that's actually what I'm hoping. So async, I'm not taking it down. There's actually some people using it, which is nice. But I'm just going to turn off self sign up and have an email me link basically. And so I'm kind of hoping the same thing will happen. If people want to use it, then they will email me, and then I can have that conversation with them. It's a great idea to watch them actually sign up for the thing. So I might do that too. But yeah, talking to more people, hopefully.
Talking to people, super important. Very, I would so much rather just, this isn't true. This was once true. I would so much rather just interact with my computer, because computers are so predictable. They behave the same way every time, and I can learn the rules of how they work, and both of us are following the rules, and they have a very precise language, and the language means exactly what it says, and it's unambiguous. People are so messy and dirty and sloppy and do not communicate clearly, and I'm getting much better at that more personable side of business of like, people are great, and that's what business is helping other humans. And so the closer I can get to that, of the core thing that I'm doing is building tools to help people. And it doesn't matter if I'm building a tool just in isolation that doesn't help anyone. That's a meaningless thing that I've built. So the closer I can get to that lower level of what is like the human pain, what's the emotion that this person is feeling, and the way that I help them with that emotion is almost incidental. It could be a piece of software, it could be a video, it could be a blog post. I have built the technical skills to make software very cheaply, but I'm learning to focus much more on like the core thing here is business is about selling positive feelings and removing negative feelings. And it sounds outrageous to say that of like, what are you talking about? What about a McDonald's hamburger? That's not feelings. Well, it kind of is. It's like removing the feeling of hunger and giving you this feeling of delight of the burger. And if you buy a house, you don't need a house. You need like shelter from the rain and, I don't know, a little bit of heat. And you can get that in a cave with some fire. The reason people have houses is because they want these positive feelings of like, I have succeeded and I am safe. And if you can deliver those feelings of safety and security, you can charge people $500,000 and have them buy a mortgage so that they can have those positive feelings over a long period of time. I feel like I'm slowly peeling back these curtains of it's not about the thing, it's about the person. And it's not even about the person, it's about the feeling that that person has. It's very against my natural inclination to think that way, but I think that's the blind spot that I've had in the world, and clarifying that has helped me make things much better.
Yeah. That would actually be one case, I think, for making Clips.marketing, at least at the beginning, more like a productized service. You know, you can explore more of this because it's going to be you interacting with people. And so that'd be kind of an interesting way to do it. Plus, you know, it doesn't have to be that way forever. You know, like get 4 clients and do it for a few months and see what you think, you know.
4 clients, if I was charging like $2,000 a month, which when I was talking to someone to hire them to do that sort of clipping on this show, that was going to be an experiment of like, how does a professional do this? They were going to charge me $2,000 a month. So if I had 5 clients at $2,000 a month, or I think you said 4 clients.
Well, whatever. Pick some small number.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's 8,000 MRR, which is like what File Inbox is making now. And for this podcast and for the other podcast I'm doing, this podcast takes it's like an hour to record, and then it's about an hour to do all the clipping and things. And it's a little bit more than that now because I still haven't ironed out this process.
Right.
But okay, if I have 4 clients, that would be like 8 hours a week to make $8,000. My gosh, I'm making $8,000 a week, and I'm not even doing the recording part, so it would be half of that. Most of that time is like that I'm actually on the podcast, but presumably if someone's hiring me, they're not hiring me to also be on the podcast.
Right.
So now I'm making $2,000 an hour.
And at some point, you can hire VAs or, you know, assistants to do it for you, the clipping.
Yeah, that's the game, I think.
Right.
Yeah, and I just maintain the tools on the team and stuff. Yeah, I think that would be a good way to stretch me. I think that's like just outside of my comfort zone of. That would be a much more personable business than I've done before. I think I find a lot of comfort in like, I am here and my app is in front of me, and then the customer is behind that, and you interact with the app, and then sometimes I interact with the app, and but I'm just here if this app breaks, and otherwise just interact with this app. If it was more of a productized service, it would be flipped. It would be like the person is interacting with me, and then I interact with the app, and then I deliver it. And from their perspective, I'm just really good and fast at making videos and very consistent. But little do they know I'm barely spending any time on this because I've built this ridiculous tool set. It's scary, and I like it, and I think that's a good way forward. I don't know how to find these people. It's another problem. Of like,
I would email whoever was on the Run With It podcast. Email her first.
Okay.
Yeah, because she seemed to have contacts that wanted this. So, yeah.
Neat. That's a great lead. I will do exactly that. I'll schedule a call with her. Also, with our incredibly prolific and wide reach of this podcast, all 30-something people, if there's anyone listening to the show that either has this problem directly or you know someone who would love a content media machine to spit out clips and have those syndicated on a bunch of different social media networks, that's the way to win this social media game. Especially if you're sitting on like a content vault. If you have like Microconf has, Microconf would be a great customer. I would love to talk to maybe like Rob Walling about this. He is sitting on content that like, if he had clips of that, he could be posting clips 3 times a day for the next 200 years.
Oh, yeah.
And then that would just grow every channel he posted it on orders of magnitude. That'd be amazing. There's all these like floofy, like Gary Vee has some interesting things, but he's so much more of a showman to me than a useful advice. He's very like, you can do it, and just do it. That's not very like practical, pragmatic advice. I want to know the actionable little tips of
Right.
Like Claire Sullenthrope talking about, I forgot what her topic was. Something on, not Facebook. Moitze Zove talking about the tips on how Facebook ads actually work and how you can use that in your business.
Yeah.
That's a very tangible, actionable thing. I would so much rather see clips of that than another clip of Gary Vee talking about how, you just gotta hustle and hustle hard, and that's the way to succeed.
Yeah. Someone else. So I just had two thoughts. Well, so someone else who's just in this recently is Nathan Barry has a new thing where he on YouTube interviews people doing paid newsletters, and then he clips those and puts them on Twitter. So it'd be interesting to see how he clips those if he uses a VA or whatever. Or it's probably someone in ConvertKit is doing that. And then the other thing was my other thing. Oh, the other thing you could do this for is it doesn't have to be video. It could be podcasts. So once you have clipping, you could clip podcasts, use something like Wave or something like that, and make the social images that way.
It's funny you bring up Wave. Wave, the last time I checked, had I think like an $80,000 MRR.
Yeah,
I tried to use them for the same alumni podcast I've mentioned twice already. Their product is terrible. It is painful to use. It is so bad. If you're listening to this from Wave, please let me help you. I have so many ideas for how it could be so much better. Even though I'm making a thing that might be competing with you, like, it's just so bad. It was so hard to use and like very clunky. I haven't used it in several months. I don't know if they fixed it, but I could build something so much better than Wave. And yeah,
I know they
yeah, go ahead.
I know they came out with it really fast and have iterated since then. So if it's been several months, maybe it's gotten better.
I hope so. It was agony last time. So that would be a fun market of like, and you said use Wave, but
or your own thing,
foundationally the
right?
things that Wave are doing, like I've already replicated in FFmpeg. I've figured out how that works. I think that's another great market because podcasters are very easy to find. You just go on YouTube and see who's publishing podcasts and who has a bunch of followers and who fits the demographic of like, okay, this person could pay in the low thousands of dollars to have clips of their thing syndicated. Let me reach out to them and see if they would be interested in this thing. Well, this is exciting.
I feel like every week we get something that's very exciting for you.
I'm a very excitable person.
Yeah.
I've got my mania turned up a little too high. I still haven't done the Stripe checkout that I was excited about last week. I got totally sidetracked on other stuff. Yes. Okay, cool. I think the plan with this then is I would like to polish this for me because it's not at the point where the clipping is happening online. There's still some manual steps in it. So I think if I go through this, like, I don't know, 5 more times, it would be at the point where the clipping part of it is happening super smoothly, that I feel like I do have the bandwidth to just be churning this out, and I could be editing podcasts that aren't even mine. And then I think I'd like to get on the phone with some people. I guess I could reach out to the woman who was on the podcast you mentioned from the Indie Hackers related podcast, and just get like a sense. Okay, so I want to schedule a call with her. I want to continue iterating on smoothing this out for myself, and then I think as soon as it's ready for me, I'd like to see what it's like to edit someone else's podcast. And I don't even know that I would need their permission to do that. I think I could come to them with a pitch of like, hey, here's the product. Here are the clips. Here's what this would look like if I did this for every episode that you did. I would love to schedule a call with you.
Yeah. I mean, for anyone who posts on YouTube or a podcast, you can just pull it down and clip it and send it to them. Yeah.
Cool. Well, that sounds like a plan that I'm very excited about, and also feel so much more in alignment with. I don't know if this is just like the honeymoon period of this business, but like I like this so much more than File Inbox. It's just like a problem that I have intrinsically that I'm interested in. I'm dog fooding it. I'm interacting with this system that I'm building multiple times a day. I'm very interested in this video production space. People who have high-profile podcasts are people who are so exciting for me to be working with. It's like, oh my gosh, could I talk to Tim Ferriss? That'd be really cool. Could I get early access to Tim Ferriss's interviews? Amazing. I'm currently very optimistic about this as a place to be directing my energy.
Yeah, I think so too. Clipping is something not just on the Run With It podcast, but I've seen it come up multiple times on Twitter and stuff. So people are thinking about it. So it's a good place to go.
I like it. And I've got the microphone to do it with.
Yeah.
Chris, what are your goals for this next week? What would you like to be focused on?
So
pushing forward more of the short form videos of the tutorials?
Yeah, so I have some more of those planned. I just want to see, put them up on Twitter, see how they do. I want to do my Egghead course. That I have so the way Egghead courses go for me, I make like a plan with a code sample, basically. Like I start from either 0 or some base, and I get to some finished state, and then I write down every single step I did to get there. And so I have that basically done. So now I need to go back and record videos for each of those steps. And then there's always so Egghead does a great job with post-production, they make artwork and they do a whole thing for courses. So there's some of that that's going to have to happen. That'll take probably a couple of weeks, not full time, but just back and forth. So I want to do that. I have this idea to launch a micro SaaS in a week. So I know it's
I like that.
I know it's a totally new one. I want to do it with these short form Twitter videos. So basically I want to do a 2-minute video for every single step of the thing. So registering the domain name and setting up DNS,
cool,
getting Rails started and whatever. So I might do that next week or maybe the week after.
I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I'm thinking about.
I'm so excited for that. How exciting. I'm curious about how the Egghead partnership works. How is that like a revenue sharing? Do they pay you, or how does that work?
Yeah, so Egghead, each platform's a little different. Egghead, the way that works is you get revenue share. So a percentage of their corporate profits go towards the authors, or it might be net revenue, or it might be revenue, I'm not sure. Goes towards the authors, and from that pool you get a percentage based on how many minutes of your video was watched compared to everyone else's.
Neat.
And there's paid videos and free videos, and so there's that calculation in there too. So a percentage of your paid videos. So they do a big basically email blast and everything when a new course comes out. So you release a new course, you get a big spike of revenue. But I have courses I put out 2 years ago that I'm still getting monthly checks for.
Cool.
So that's pretty nice.
That sounds like a very fair model to be splitting company revenue, and I like that, because then if the company's doing better, you do better. It's not like a flat model of, I think there's not Coursera, Skillshare, I think, has a model of they pay you a flat rate based on the number of minutes that people are watching, and that based on their model, I think Skillshare has a much higher upside than the content creators. It sounds like the content creators are missing out on a lot of that revenue, which they can get away with, I think, because they're a huge platform. If you're on Skillshare, you're just going to get people sort of drifting in. I'm liking the Egghead community of the way you're describing their revenue model.
Yeah.
That if the company is doing well, if the company does better, you also do better. That sounds very fair.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you, Joel Hooks.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yep.
Yeah. Cool. I've met him. He's a cool guy. He's very tall.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of tattoos.
Much cooler than me. Chris, that's all I got.
That's all I got too.
Then I will see you next week.
All right.
Goodbye.
Bye.